confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are all around the world. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and this is radio the way it should be heard. Thank you again for listening. Thank you for your patronage. Man, I got some news to drop on you, which I will do. But you're here to speak with Mr. Fuller, and today's topic will be an open forum. We had a staff meeting, and the staff indicated that concerning last week's show, it went so well in the second hour that we decided that we wanted to get everybody a chance to get on, and we're going to have an open forum. So you can call in or Gmail me, and Mr. Fuller will address your questions or issues or your statements. You know, VGQ is in effect. But before we do that, Mr. Fuller is the author of the Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code guide, and we usually work out of, or have been, out of the revised expanded edition, and it is simply a textbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. Mr. Fuller, let's start off by saying good morning.
Good morning, and I can barely hear you.
Okay,
So I don't know about everybody else, but I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a little better.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And we hopefully can work those situations out. Okay, first of all, let me say this concerning donations. We have been getting a lot of donations, and I have a few names, in particular, Mr. Cornelius Baker. Man, he has donated 3 times, and each time he donates, he gives more and more, and I'm just really shocked at the amount of money that he has given. So keep those donations going. But Sharit Brown, thank you for your contribution. Freddie Burgess, again, Cornelius Baker. Wow, I just can't even find the words for him. Brian Gaston, May and Lamar Brown, again, Cornelius Baker. I'm just reading it right off the list. Samuel Robertson, BW Gifts, thank you. I did read an article, BW. And Patrick Smith are just a few. All you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and hit the donate button, and you can donate any amount that you want to, and apparently people are actually doing that. That is on the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, and that is for the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. All of you wanted it, and now it is here, and so go ahead and do your thing, and all the deductions or donations are tax deductible. Okay, Mr. Fuller is the, again, author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and I say that because we have new people coming in all the time, and so they don't know about this. So, Mr. Fuller, since we do have new people coming in all of the time, how can and where can the new people get these, get the publication?
Get the publication?
Yes, sir.
Go to producejustice.com. That's like in product, PRODUCE, producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook and a supplementary word guide. Basically, it's one book, but I couldn't get it all in one book. It's supposed to be one book because I say one problem, one book. I don't like a lot of books scattered all over the place when you're trying to solve a problem. So I had to put it in 2 volumes. But basically, it's one book. And the name of the book is The Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. And the basic title is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. That's described in the book. But go to producejustice.com There's a brief description of what the book is about. It's a textbook workbook for victims of white supremacy, and details within the book about what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, and addressed to the individual person. That's that compensatory factor, meaning making up for what's missing. Something for the individual person, what you can do each and every day to better your condition if you're a person classified as non-white anywhere on the planet. And just some suggestions and some ideas that you probably haven't thought of before. That's what the book is about, in solving the problem and producing a product called what? Justice. That should be the end result of everything that everybody does. Why? Because we don't have it nowhere on the planet. So the website is called producejustice.com. That's the objective.
Okay. Phone lines are now open. You can call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby, at gmail.com, and I will read your Gmails after my staff vets it. Maybe not today, but we'll see. Okay, let's go to the Gmails. This is from Dr. Ferguson. He says, Mr. Fuller, there was a call from a gentleman a few weeks ago who said the flag of the subject city-state of Whitesboro, New York, a white man choking a Native American. Actually, it is a city seal, not the flag, but how would you feel driving in that city being non-white?
How would I feel driving?
How would you feel driving in this city being non-white with a seal of a white man choking a Native American?
I would expect that. And if I was going to counteract it, I would just simply ask for a flag to be put up next to it of us, or a symbol to be put up next to it. I call it the compensatory universal flag. And that would be in the form of a what? Like I've described in the book, a question mark. That's a universal symbol, a question mark. Why? Because everything in the world starts with a question. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I have an idea if there's a symbol like that, and I would just look at it and raise a question about it. What is that supposed to produce? What is that message supposed to be? And I would ask whomever put that up there. That would be the person asked. Follow the logic. Everything in counter-racist science, everything in producing justice is based on following the logic, cause and effect. So you would look at the seal and you would say, oh, that's interesting. Now, what exactly does that mean? And when I look at it, what does that mean I'm supposed to do? Because evidently there must be some type of instruction there. Instruction to whom? To whom? Is it to me? Is it to everybody? Is it just to a few people? Is there some type of coded language that just applies under some circumstances? But the only persons who could answer that would be the people who put the seal up there in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's why I say you put a question mark behind it.
Oh, okay. Tell you what, there is a response to that, a timeline, but we have a call, so let's take the call first before we answer that. Caller, you're now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. Good morning to you all. I have an observation and a question. In my opinion, it seems like the President Trump is using words to confuse people, maybe intentional, not intentional. And I was looking at the hearing with FBI Director James Comey. It seems that he uses words very precisely. For instance, the difference between, he said they're not looking at collusion, they're looking at coordination. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking of Mr. Fuller and the use of words. I wondered if Mr. Fuller is watching any of the congressional testimony or the Supreme Court hearings. I wondered if his thoughts on that.
Hey, Mr. Fuller?
I looked at it. I looked at a part of it. I try to keep up with most things. There's so many things that go on in so many different places. So I look at a little of this and a little of that and try to get enough understanding in my little looking, of what's going on. And it's usually the same pattern and whatnot. Like the gentleman said, confusion. You get confusion. So what's the antidote to confusion? Logically speaking, questions and answers. If someone uses a word that seems to be confusing to you, may not be confusing to the person sitting next to you, but it's confusing to you, then you ask for clarification.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want. And all problems, are solved through the process. And remember this, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers.
Okay.
And if you don't understand the answer to a question, then that calls for what? Another question. Sir, will you please clarify what you just said?
Yes, sir.
And the person says, well, may say, I don't know what they might say. And you just wait for them to say whatever they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just gave you the clarification. Say, well, sir, you gave it to me, but it's not clear to me. And then the person might say, and this is an everyday conversation you have with anybody, the person might say, well, you're awfully dumb. See, now that's an accusation, but you don't respond to it in a hostile manner and all like that.
Mm-hmm.
If a person says that you're dumb because you don't understand what they're saying, you will say, well, I just don't understand what you're saying. And it may be because I'm dumb, or it may be because I don't understand what you're saying, but anyhow, you are talking to me, and the whole purpose for you talking to me is for me to understand what you're saying, so I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. So will you please say what you said again and try to say it in a way that with my dumbness, I might be able to understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Because the whole purpose is not to find out whether or not I'm dumb, I guess. The whole purpose is for me to understand the message that you are giving me.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. All righty. That was Mr. Fuller responding to a question from our caller concerning the congressional hearings that is going on, questioning James Comey, the FBI director, and the caller wanted to know Mr. Fuller's thoughts on that. Let's see. Let's go back to that Whitesboro thing. The timeline I have here, on July the 7th, 2015, the mayor of the village of Whitesboro insisted that the symbol or the seal is not racist. Then on January the 12th, 2016, there was a village vote of 157 to 155 to keep the seal. But then, about 10 days later, on January the 22nd of 2016, public pressure decided to, along with the Oneida Indian Nation, to come up with a new emblem concerning it. So evidently, Mr. Fuller, there was some questions, as you suggested, that were asked about that symbol. What does it mean? And they addressed that. As a matter of fact, the village is named after U. White, an early settler who had been adopted into the Oneida tribe and built the first permanent settlement there in 1784 to 85. The village of Whitesboro is inside the town of Whitestown, and it is said that the seal is actually a picture of a friendly wrestling match between White and the Oneida Indian Nation people, but it was very controversial, and they had to do something about it. So that was the resolve on that particular situation. Okay, let's do this. Talktainment Radio, or talktainmentradio.com, is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facilities that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics, and now here are several that I'm going to share with you. Real Men, Everlasting Life, and the Father and Son Connection. Now, those sound interesting, but this is what you can do. You can go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on Programs, and there you will find the scheduled times and a little description of the shows. And, and other shows that are there. You may want to check that out. Along with this, a donate button for the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Just hit that bad boy, as a few of them have. And, boy, that'll just make everybody happy here, especially for the second hour. Lynetta Smith, Walter Ware, Daryl Sills, Carolyn Taylor, and Diablo Mustafa. Thank you for your gifts. All that and more. How about that? That's TalkTainmentRadio.com. This is radio the way it should be heard. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and you can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7MrBobby, B-O-B-B-Y, the numeral 7, and Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. We're having an open forum, so you can call in, and we have a caller here. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Are you aware that last week's program in the podcast, it lists 2 hours, but it only plays 1 hour?
Yes, we are aware, and if you listened to the show or tried to last week, that problem has been addressed. I don't think we're going to get that second hour, so you just have to settle for that first hour. We had a lot of problems, but the problems have been worked out.
Okay. And on the fundraiser for the second hour, what is the amount that we need? Last year it was like $3,100. We started in June.
Yes,
Could you please give us an update as we go, or?
Okay, I asked for an update when I came in, and they're compiling that. But at last update we had, we were about a third of the way there, and then I just got a report here, but it wasn't totaled, of some new donations, and they were nice donations. But when I get that information, I will pass that on to the listeners and to you.
And do we still need the $3,100 for the year?
I think it might be 3120. I'm not sure. What is it?
Yes, something like that. Okay.
Yes, I'm
getting
the signal. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, good call. Good call. Okay, let me get to the another Gmail. Remember, you can call at 1-877-932-9766. And there was a question, Mr. Fuller, about the movie Get Out. Quite a few callers have mentioned in that. Did you get a chance to see the movie?
No, I haven't. There are I have a long list. I've even forgotten what I have on the list of movies that I would like to see, that I'd like to get around to seeing. In fact, some movies that I have seen that I'd like to see again. I just haven't gotten around to it. My time is getting to be kind of short for getting things done. I have a long to-do list at the beginning of every day, and it seems like it just keeps getting longer.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to get to another Gmail if I can here. 1-877-932-9766. Let's see here. This is from Dr. Davari. He said, I had a couple of questions for Mr. Fuller. So let's see here. He says, why did Mr. Fuller order Mr. Fuller order the 9 areas of activity the way he did? Is it in his order of importance?
No, It's in the alphabetical order. Just happened to work out like that. I decided to orchestrate it in alphabetical order because it doesn't really make any difference which area a person is active in. If they're active in one area, what applies to a person in one area applies or affects all other areas, because it's just like the body of a person or the body of anything, the body of any creature. Your kidneys affect what happens in your liver. Your liver affects what happens in your heart. Your heart affects what happens in your lungs. Your lungs affect what happens in your brain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, one thing interacts with another. Economics interacts with politics. Politics interacts with religion. Religion interacts with sex. Sex interacts with politics. Politics interacts with entertainment. Entertainment interacts with education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All areas of activity blend into all other areas. That's the way to look at it. Okay. Why? Because that's the way it is.
All right. And then he says here, Mr. Fuller, why is the religion chapter so short? To me, religion is the biggest problem of all 9.
Yes, religion is the biggest problem of all 9, but the entire system of white supremacy is the dominant religion. So there's not a whole lot to say about that except just examine what white supremacy is and how it works. And then you have right there the dominant religion among the planet, of the people of this planet, the planet called Earth. There are a lot of different religions, tribal religions and whatnot. I understand there are hundreds of religions, if not thousands. Sometimes just a group of 500 people have their own religion. It's just 500 people, but they have their own religion. But the most powerful religion among the people of this planet is the religion called the system of white supremacy. That's the strongest religion. It has the most powerful believers and practitioners of all of the other religions combined. And that's why the chapter on religion is very short. Okay. What is religion? A strong belief backed up by action. That's all any religion is. Okay. Strong belief backed up by action. In other words, you act on what you believe in. The white supremacists do that better than anybody ever has.
All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. What line are we? Line number 1? Okay, line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead. Line number 1, go ahead.
How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is TJ from Columbia. I'm going to ask about have you guys seen the flag? Yeah, and I definitely don't believe that was just a friendly wrestling match. But my question was, I have another.
Oh, you mean concerning Whitesboro?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So something else kind of started swimming around the internet last week and kind of blew my mind, and it was Disney kind of sneak previewing a homosexual cartoon, and I immediately thought about confusion and starting early, and I thought about Mr. Fuller, and I was wanting to know when did you really see this transformation going? Like when you wrote about black men in dresses, like when did you really see this starting to take place, and why is it starting to flourish so strong?
Okay.
Immediately in the mid-1950s, when black males, you might see old photographs of when Martin Luther King went to Memphis, where he was assassinated. You would see black males in suits and ties, and they would have signs. And these signs said, "I am a man." And then there's a common expression among black people themselves. I mean, everywhere from a school or a basketball court or a pool hall, back when they had pool halls and all like that, or just walking down the street, Who uses the term man more than black males in the Northwestern Hemisphere? Nobody. Hey, man, what's up? What's up, man? Oh, you my man. You know, and we give that handshake and all like that. Man, 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 man. That's striving for manhood. I ain't no boy. You talk to me like I'm some kind of boy. I'm a man. M-A-N. In fact, Muddy Waters, a blues musician, guitarist, had a song where all through the song he's saying man. I'm a man. M-A-N. Man. I'm a man. I made the moon come up. I'm a man. Why? Why do we keep saying more than anybody, man, man, man? It's that striving for manhood, because we've been taught that we are not men, that we are boys, little boys, that you can play with us, that we are nothing but kids. We'll never grow up. We are not in a man's place. And the white supremacists have said that all the time. See what I mean? In fact, black males have a thing, goes way back, way before the 1950s. Here come the man. That automatically meant white man. That's the only man. There is no other man. And that is true in 2017. Truth be told. So, what the white supremacists started doing is letting, after the 1960s, when they started seeing those signs, and black people going around saying, hey, our manhood is being threatened. I mean, we want to be men. We want to be able to do things. We want to be able to do things in a manly manner and whatnot. And the white supremacists said, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be but one man in this house, and he's white. And in this house, they meant planet-wise. None of you black, brown, red, or yellow people are going to be men. You can be two things. When it comes to malehood, you can be a boy or you can be a girl. Take your choice. You're not going to be anything else in my house, which is this entire planet. And if you think that you're going to prove that you're a man, you're going to have to prove it to me, and I will come down on you with brute force. So black males begin to pick up that message. And you got about 2 generations of black males right now. I mean, you know, all of a sudden, right after the so-called civil rights movement and the black power movements of the 1960s, you start seeing the earrings. And then there was a brief period in the early 1970s where they raised the rear ends of black males up by putting them in those little bell-bottom trousers real tight around the rear and putting them in high-heel shoes, platform shoes. I mean, that you could barely walk in. I mean, some guys who were doing things like trying to rob somebody or something like that couldn't get away because they couldn't run in those high-heel shoes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, the white supremacists figured that out.
Yeah.
He's not going nowhere.
Okay.
He's trying to keep up with the styles and at the same time trying to rob somebody. I mean, we can catch him easy trying to run in platform shoes with heels and tight pants, switching around.
All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you... All righty. Welcome back to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Just download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and our topic today is really an open forum in which you can call in and have Mr. Fuller answer your questions or listen to your comments. And you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And while you're doing that, hey, hit that donate button for the second hour coming up in about, I guess about 20 minutes, 26 minutes, so we can listen to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And thank you for some of the people who have donated. Reginald Thomas II, thank you, Reggie, if I may call you that. Lawson Uperto, we want to thank you for your donation here. And Brian Gadsden, thank you. some of the people that have donated for the second hour of the compensatory concert with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We want to go back in. Mr. Fuller, there was a question from Dr. Seal. He wanted to know if you knew the whereabouts or the etymology of the word, well, I'm not going to say the word, but MF. Does it have anything to do with buck busting or butt busting? Was it a slave breaking mechanism? Does it mean having sex with your mother or someone else having sex with your mother and you're forced to watch it? Or was it very precise in the military? Especially when the soldiers came back, they used this, seemed to use this word. Do you know the etymology of the word, or rather of the term MF?
No, I don't, but I heard it in the military more than I heard it any place. That's when I was really exposed to the term. In fact, I hadn't heard the use of the term. And being, you might say country, and from a country town and all like that. I mean, and when I got into the military, I mean, it was all day long among the black soldiers. All day long. Everything that they said. Not all of them, but many of them among the black soldiers. The white soldiers didn't use the term. In fact, a couple of white sergeants mentioned it within those racial terms. Said, why do you colored troops, always use that term? I mean, that you have something about you, something you want to do to your mother? I mean, why do you use that? He said that in formation one day. And this is on not just on one occasion, on several occasions, and on different bases, different places, different times. It wasn't just the same group. And I understand that it really originated and, got really real popular. This was during the Korean conflict where I was, but it goes back to World War II. It was used then a lot. Yes, but almost exclusively by black soldiers. Hello?
Yeah, so does it mean that, does it symbolize some type of power or something like that? Hello, Mr. Fuller? Does it symbolize?
I hear an echo.
Okay. Is it straight now or is it still there?
I still hear it.
Okay, we try to get that worked out there's an echo he's hearing. Mr. Fuller's hearing an echo. Okay.
I'm hearing a playback of what I just said.
You're hearing a playback?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not hearing it here, but we have to. They're giving me the go ahead on sign.
Okay.
Okay. Now you say you heard this in the military. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we? Can we take this call? Galen, can we take this call? Okay. Caller, go ahead while we try to work this out. Caller, go ahead. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm still learning.
So am I. You had mentioned things earlier in this broadcast about when the black male had been pretty much violated or targeted, and we had a conversation previously, and I was hoping you could expound on that. You were heading in that direction when you were talking about how they gave the black male two choices, be a boy or be a girl. And I asked you a question, and maybe you can, however you want to take it, is why do you think all these years, whether they were in textbooks, on college campuses, or black leaders, omitted the fact of black males being also targeted strongly for sexual violation by the white supremacists? Why has that been left out? And now why is it pronounced, like in movies that are coming out, that it's A-OK for anti-sexual practices to happen male to male, a.k.a. moonlight?
Oh, why are they doing it now?
Yes. And
rather than in the past?
Well, you said in the past it was, right, that this has always been going on, but how come now?
You mean, well, it's just a continuation, that's all.
Right.
the white supremacists have always been real jittery, you might say, if you want to use that term, about the sexuality of black people. Always very much interested in the sexuality of black people. I mean, whether it's males or females. What do we do with their sexuality? Our subject people, these throwaway people. But their sexuality is very strong. What do we do with it? Well, we lynch black males when they look at white women. We'll do that. And then, but we'll reach a point where, hey, if we stop doing that, then we'll probably, start running a con game on them by turning loose a certain number. And there's always a limited number of black females on intellectual black males. We'll use that as a technique to throw them off and to give them the illusion that the race problem is solved. Because if you see one black male walking down the street holding hands with a white female, it gives the illusion that the problem is solved. But you're just looking at one or two or three or maybe a dozen in one locale. And so you say, well, racism doesn't exist. You got black and white together. Why? I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a black male holding hands with a white female. And they'll walk down the middle of the street like they usually do, middle of the sidewalk, showing off mostly, and kissing each other every 5 minutes. Okay? So a person driving by in their car, they say, oh, isn't that cute? I mean, racism is, well, hey, that's a thing of the past. But see, that's a limited number. That's well calculated, well thought out. And they're not going to let that get out of hand. All right? Now, the rest of the black males still wanting to be men, still wanting to come out of school with their certificates in their hand and say, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to manage. See, that's man is short for manage. I'm going to manage affairs. I'm going to be in charge of things. I'm going to be the masculine voice and whatnot. And even when you start, now that I think about it, when you talk about voices, in the mid-1950s, I watched this happen because someone asked earlier, when would I start perceiving this feminization of black males? I noticed they started going from the Billy Ecksteins to heavy voice, baritones. Paul Robeson had a heavy voice, okay? All right? Billy Eckstein had a heavy voice. Arthur Prysock, that might be a singer that a lot of people are not familiar with.
We got him.
He was a baritone. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, in the mid-1950s, right when black males started saying, we want to be men, all of a sudden a lot of the singers start singing in a high-pitched voice. Right. I started playing records, and I would hear black singers, and I would say, is that a male or a female singing? Because the black males, many of the entertainers found out that the white people, the white supremacists rather, would pay more money if you sang in a high-pitched voice and you were a black male. Lots of people hadn't noticed that. Mm-hmm, Go back and play some of those old records and see how the transition has been all down through it. Every now and then they'd let somebody like Isaac Hayes,
or Lou Rawls.
They would put chains all around his neck and make him look like a slave with a masculine voice. Okay? Watch that. Isaac Hayes got chains all around him. All right? He's the strong, masculine male. Mm-hmm. I mean, big muscles and all like that. Deep voice. Very deep voice. Okay? But you put chains around his neck because what you do, that's a symbol. You put that chain around him so that he doesn't get loose. He doesn't get loose with all that masculinity. He gets loose with all that masculinity. He's a threat to what? The system of white supremacy.
Yes.
That's what.
Yes. Okay. All righty. Good call. Good call, caller. Good call. Thank you. Thank you so much. All righty. That's something to think about. Isaac Hayes, Lou Rawls. Wow. Okay. Let's go back to the Gmails. Last question from Dr. Javari. He says that he saw on YouTube where Mr. Fuller suspected the so-called anti-racist Tim Wise of being a racist. I concur. I just don't trust that man. He gives me a bad VGQ vibe. Mr. Fuller, what led you to this conclusion? I'd be interested in seeing who he signs with, who signs Mr. Wise's paychecks. So evidently, you made a statement about Tim Wise. He wanted to know what made you come to that conclusion.
Well, I'm not going to address anybody, by name.
Okay.
But I am going to say, any person classified as white, I keep reiterating this because this is code. This is counter-racist code. This is science. The best approach, the most constructive approach, the logical approach is, in answer to that question, any white person anywhere on the planet in the system of white supremacy who is able to be a white supremacist should be suspected of being one until proven different. Proven to whom? To each and every victim of white supremacy. The victims have to make that decision. For instance, for example, if a person comes to me, a black person, and says, I want you to meet my white friend. I have known this white person since my early days, since we were 10 years old. We are now 40 years old. I have known him since I was 10. He doesn't have a racist bone in his body. Fuller, and I want you to shake his hand. He's going to introduce himself, and you can be assured, I will assure you, I'll guarantee you, he's not a racist. And I will thank the person for introducing the person to me, the white person. I will shake his hand. But if he asks me if I suspect that he is a racist, I will say, well, yes, since you asked, sir, I suspect that you are a racist. And if the person says, well, didn't your friend here, your acquaintance, this black person here, verify that I wasn't a racist? He has verified it to you, sir. Now you have to start all over again and verify it to me. Why? Logically speaking, because you may have done an excellent job of fooling him. And so now you're going to have to fool me, because I am duty bound to suspect that you can be a racist and that you might be one. And I don't take anybody's word that you are not under any circumstance. I don't care what that circumstance is. I mean, even a person whom I have known for years, I can't take their word for it that you are not a racist. Why? Because in a racist system, the racists are the greatest deceivers that the world has ever known. That's how they got their power, deception and violence. So I am duty bound, sir, to suspect that you most likely are a racist. But I will watch your performance over a period of time until I decide that you are not. But up until then, you are a racist suspect. According to what? According to counter-racist science. It's not personal, sir. It's business.
Okay. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio, the way it should be heard. And this is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. And while you're doing that and while you're on that home page, hit that donate button. Please hit that donate button so that we can continue with the second hour of the compensatory concept. Hopefully, before today's show, they will give me some type of figure where we're at. But if not, I will work on getting that. One of the callers did call in and wanted to know where are we at on that. But continue to hit that donate button. Before we go on with the show, Mr. Fuller, I'm required to ask you to speak to your book here. So take it away.
Right. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's like in product, produce. We should be trying to produce a product that no one has produced yet, nowhere on the planet. That's why it needs production. We need to eliminate the system of racism, which is the dominant government of the planet, and have a government of what? If you're going to replace something, you should replace it with something better. Otherwise, what's the point in replacing it? So, if you're going to replace racism, you replace it with what? What does racism produce? It produces mistreatment of people, which is non-justice. So you should get rid of the mistreatment of people by producing a product called what? Justice. So that's why I named the website producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description for getting the textbook for victims of white supremacy.
Okay. All righty. 1-877-932-9766 or the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com is how you can get in contact.
If you can speak a little louder, I think.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you,
okay.
And I just hope that hope that the people can hear you.
Yes, okay. Question from Dr. Stephen. He says, my question for Mr. Fuller relates to his views and courtesy and disrespect. Wouldn't others view you as weak and passive if you allow people to call you or your partner, wife, all sorts of names without any effort to stand up for yourself? Have you, Mr. Fuller, ever had a situation where you let someone call you every name in the book and people admired you for saying nothing? Some people resort to violence when you are silent because you are not acknowledging their presence when you are silent. Men get defensive about disrespect because they know it makes them come across as less of a man when they do nothing about it. Even in mob movies, the boss knows he can't show weakness in front of others because it may get him killed. So he beats or kills those who disrespect him. It's not a matter of lack of respect. It's not a matter of lack of respect. I look forward to your response, Mr. Fuller, Dr. Stephen.
I have covered that word respect many times, and I'll do it again. One thing you never ask for, ever, under any circumstance, according to what? According to logic. And that's to ask for respect. Never ask for respect, never ask for love, and never ask for an apology, ever, under any circumstance. According to what? According to logic. Because when you ask for respect, you're asking for something that you can only give to yourself. You can't get it from somebody else. And when you start wishing that you could get it from somebody else, you have really made yourself weaker than you already are. If you're going to have strength, you look for one person to give you respect, and that is yourself. What somebody else calls you shouldn't matter at all, simply because that shouldn't have anything to do with you. Now, I hear this thing about let, L-E-T, let somebody disrespect you. That's impossible. You give it to yourself, and you got it. And how do you give it to yourself? By not lying to yourself, because that's what real respect is. There is no other form of respect. Just because a person is discourteous, you don't have a contract with people to be courteous. I don't have a contract with people that I pass on the street to be courteous to me, to say nice things to me. I don't have that kind of contract, and I'm not looking for that kind of contract. If they want to do it, that's on them. If they don't want to do it, that's on them. It has nothing to do with me. That's what I mean by getting control of your own universe, being in your own self, putting your own values on everything. I don't put value on somebody who calls me a name. The only reason that can have anything to do with me is if I choose for it to have something to do with me. then I got to run around and ask them, please don't call me no name. And if you keep calling me a name, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you for calling me a name. And then I have to answer to somebody for doing the hurt. Now I have been pulled into somebody else's trap. That's nothing but a trap. First of all, I'm a prisoner of war. I'm already a prisoner of war. I've already been stripped of my manhood because prisoners of war are not men, and they're really not women. They are girls and boys. That's why you're a prisoner of war. You have been stripped of power. Men manage. You don't manage anything as a prisoner of war. I recognize that. See, so I'm not asking anybody to respect me as a prisoner of war. That doesn't even make sense. The warden of the prison can say anything that he or she wants to say to me. Why? That's the warden. That has nothing to do with anything. I'm already a prisoner. I've already been took, as Malcolm X. Took, shook up, bamboozled, run amok. That's what a prisoner of war is. You have no power, none. So you don't pretend that you have it. That is a lack of self-respect. The one thing that you say that you want, many people say they want it. Run around with guns in their hands, say, I'm going to kill somebody because they didn't respect me. They don't even know what it is. You got to get it for yourself, meaning don't lie to yourself. I don't lie to myself about being a prisoner of war. That's why you can call me any name that you want to. I'm already a prisoner. So you're going to call a prisoner a name? I mean, all kind of slurs and whatnot? You've already done the damage. What I'm working on is not being a prisoner. So you can't do anything to me anymore that you shouldn't do. But as long as I'm a prisoner, the warden of a prisoner can call a prisoner anything that that warden wants to. Why? Because he knows that that prisoner is helpless. And balling up his fist and ringing and shaking the bars of the prison and talking about what he would do if he wasn't in prison. I've seen that over and over and over again. Woof, 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 woof. You ain't gonna do nothing to me. Take these cuffs off me. I'll show you a thing or two. Take the cuffs off you? Take the cuffs off you? That's why I put the cuffs on you, boy. So that you can't do nothing but foam at the mouth. I'll kick you in your mouth, and you can't get the cuffs off you. But you can come up with another MF and another MF and another MF and all about what you're not going to take and all like that. But you can take your toughest Negro. I mean, there are some black people that got huge reputations for pushing other black people around. You get them around the white supremacists, and that's what you call the moment of truth. That's like putting that black guy back in the Roman Empire in that, them emperors going, dragging him in chains all the way from what you might call North Africa, his habitat, and put him in that Colosseum and turn that lion loose on him and sit back and say, okay, prove to that lion how much man you are. Because you ain't got nothing but your bare hands, and that lion has not eaten in 3 weeks. He got just enough strength to chase you down. And we will watch him and maybe 5 or 6 other lions go at you. You try to find your way out of that Colosseum, and there's no exit. Okay? They prove to us all the time, every day. They throw us across the hoods of cars and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
Talking about, I'm the king of the hood. Yeah, you're the king of this hood now.
Yes, sir.
Because we are going to take you where we want you to go, and you ain't got enough homies to back you up. They will come around and foam at the mouth and talk about it ain't right and all like that, and they'll throw a few fire bombs and tear up a few cars, and we'll just make them pay for all of that. So what? So they burn down the neighborhood. So what? Then they come back and beg us to build it back up because they don't know how to build nothing. Get out of my face, Negro.
Wow.
You're dealing with the white supremacists.
Wow. Well, wow, whoa. Mr. Bad Boy, huh? Or thinking he's bad boy.
Oh, we always think that we're bad. I mean,
Yeah.
dark shades and hairdos and tattoos won't cut it.
Yeah.
We'll not cut it. The white supremacists come up,
Yeah.
and they'll talk in a squeaky voice.
Yeah.
And they say, you better get back in your face. Hey, fella, you better get back in your place.
You know what?
You got about 3 minutes to do it.
We better get.
I'll drop an atomic bomb on you.
We better get back in the mode. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Righty, welcome back to the second hour of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Heard here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. Yes, you are in touch with The Compensatory Concept. I am Mr. Bobby, the show's co-host, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Today we're having an open forum in which you can call and ask Mr. Fuller any question, and he will address it. It is live. Unless you're listening to it on the podcast. It is off the cuff. It is not rehearsed. It's just as is. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and my staff will get it and vet it, and I'll read it to you. How about that? And Mr. Fuller will address that. Open forum right now. Let's go to the... wait a minute. Don't forget, this hour is sponsored by you. I call it the donation hour, and we really need your donations to continue it for the entire year. All you have to do is, since you're on the home page, hit that donate button and put in as much as you want to, whatever amount you want to. It will go strictly toward the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And a few of them have done this. How about this? Ruben and Stella Blum have given a donation, so thank you for that. Dabo Mustafa, Marlon Turan, and Karen Carriage have also made a donation. Thank you. And so continue that. Let's go to the phone lines, and we're on, what line, number one? Okay. Line number one. Go ahead. You're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead, line number one.
Hello. I have two questions. I'll be brief. One of my questions is for Mr. Fuller. What do you think about, what is your stance on the right to bear arms or for victims of white supremacy? And also, I heard you mention that you had a job as a police officer at one point, and I'm wondering if you can share some instances where you noticed white supremacy in practice.
Okay, wait a minute. Right to bear arms, and then Mr. Fuller being a police officer. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I was wondering if you had any instances of white supremacy in action.
All right, Mr. Fuller.
Okay, the first one was right to bear arms.
Yes.
If the white supremacists say that you can bear arms, you bear arms. I mean, you know, if that's something that you need, if you need a weapon to protect yourself, to help you to produce a product called justice and whatnot, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, mostly yourself, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Yes, if you need arms to do that, and the races allow you to have the arms because they are the ones who are the master of arms, I mean, then you partake in them. Yes, you have those available. If you're talking about weapons, weapons are nothing but tools. Just like a plow is a tool, a wrench is a tool, a screwdriver is a tool, a saw is a tool to accomplish a job. So whatever job needs to be accomplished, in order to do so in the most constructive manner, you have to have a tool available. Sometimes that tool is a gun, and you just let the racists know, well, considering my circumstances, sir, ma'am, I will have to have something in the form of a gun available immediately as a tool to keep things from happening to me that should not happen. It's just that simple. And you ask for it. You don't steal it or anything like that, because they know about stealing. And I just want to cover that, too. Black people should be real careful about stealing, particularly black politicians and whatnot, but everybody, really, because the white supremacists know how you are doing it. They know all about stealing. They know everything that there is to know about stealing. Don't you think that you can steal and they don't know how you're doing it? They know everything about stealing. They stole whole continents,
yes,
entire people,
yes,
oil, iron, put people in chains. When you can steal people and put them in chains and put them on ships and haul them all over the world and make them do whatever they want done, don't you think that they know when you walk into a store and pick up some merchandise how that's done? And don't you think that if you work in a store and you start thinking that you can manipulate that cash register and that they don't know anything about how that cash register is being manipulated when they made the cash register? I mean, we need to wake up and stop that. Ask for what you want, because they're going to punish you for being a thief. And not only that, they want you to be a thief. If you're a person of color, they want you to be a thief, because that changes your character so that you become a thief, and that gets to be all that you know.
Yes.
So whenever you're around black people, you start stealing from black people, because that's all you know. You've gotten used to just doing that. You never did anything else. So we don't want that kind of world coming up in the future. So you ask the warden of the prison about what you want.
Okay.
Don't pick it up and walk out with it. Ask them, because if you steal it, you're going to get punished. You're going to get caught.
Okay.
They know how that's done.
Now, what about the second part of that about you and policing?
And what about me being a law enforcement officer?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, law
enforcement.
Yes,
it was a job. I've always been a law enforcement officer. I think every black person is in one form or another. But I can say this. I never mistreated anybody, as far as I know, as a law enforcement officer, because I always reminded people when I was that, hey, don't ask me to mistreat somebody now. Because, see, I'm going to have to tell everybody that you asked me to do that. And I'll let you know that right up front. I mean,
I noticed,
don't ask me to do anything that looks like somebody's going to get mistreated.
Yes.
Because the first thing, and I'm going to tell you this, see, I don't believe in blindsiding people. Nobody should. Meaning what? Blindsiding. Meaning you do something at the last minute. No, you let everybody know where you stand in front. And that's the key term, mistreatment.
Correct.
Because everything, I don't care what job you have, black people are always called on to mistreat people.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Because black people are supposed to be about mistreatment, because black people are supposed to be mistreated by everybody.
By everybody.
But to the best of your ability, you let people know. You announce it. Even when the subject hasn't even been brought up, you say, I'd like to speak to everybody and say that I don't want to be put in a situation where I'm going to mistreat someone. If I'm moving up the ladder, you might say, not only in law enforcement, but as a supervisor on a job. Just say, I would like to speak before we get started here.
Okay.
As a brand new supervisor, I would like for everybody to know that I'm going to do everything I can to keep from mistreating people.
Yes, sir.
So don't come to me with a mistreatment plan, because I don't want to be a part of it.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because I noticed as you were speaking, you made, at least to me, and maybe I'm wrong, a clear distinction between, or not using the word police or police and law enforcement. What is the difference?
Oh, police are people. Police don't exist. You can't have police officers in a non-just system.
Oh, okay.
So,
in a non-just
you have law
system.
enforcement. In other words, you have laws.
Okay.
See, because you don't have justice. Justice doesn't exist anywhere.
I got you.
Yes.
I got you.
You can't have, it's impossible to have justice in a system of white supremacy. That's not going to happen. Why? Because the system of white supremacy is a system that all of the participants are dedicated to maintaining non-justice. Maintaining what? The mistreatment of people. Based on what? Based on color. I mean, hey, you can't have justice, anywhere.
Right. Okay. I just wanted
under these circumstances.
But
you do have laws.
Right.
See, so we enforce laws, and the laws that are made that we enforce just by practicing, just by being here in the prison. You enforce all the laws of the prison.
Okay.
Doesn't make any difference what job you have. The job description doesn't matter. If you're a person of color, you're supporting the system of white supremacy. That's why we should get out of this thing of trying to find out who the Tom of the week is.
Okay.
When you're on a plantation and you're a slave, you're supporting the system.
Okay.
So if you're black and you're on this planet, you are supporting the system of white supremacy just by being here. Mm-hmm. The only way not to support it is you don't exist anymore.
Okay. Gotcha. Line number 1. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hello. My question for Mr. Fuller is, sometimes I hear people saying they already live a codified lifestyle, but don't really know the details about racism. Is it my duty as a follower of Mr. Fuller to inform him in detail about the system of racism since he's already living a codified lifestyle?
Inform him. Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Inform who?
The individual I'm talking to, he already lives a semi-codified lifestyle as far as being more constructive with his time, but doesn't really understand the system of racism. Is it my duty as a follower of Mr. Fuller to inform him since he's already semi-codified for his lifestyle?
No, it's not your duty to, first of all, follow Neely Fuller anywhere. Never follow Neely Fuller around the corner. You might be making a huge mistake. Follow the logic. That came with the universe. That's what Neely Fuller is trying to tap into. That's why this system hasn't been dismantled. Neely Fuller hasn't dismantled the system. You don't follow anybody who's not successful. I am not successful. I'm trying to figure out everything that you're trying to figure out. What to do under these circumstances. That's all that I'm doing. And I make a few suggestions, and you can make a few suggestions. But you always approach everybody. Remember this. This makes it real simple. When you talk to anyone, and the person is talking about a problem, then you go into the question mode. What is the problem? What are you going to do about the problem? All right? How are you going to go about doing something about the problem? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Because anybody that you talk to, the main thing that you're looking for is whether the talk that you're having is constructive or non-constructive. And if it's something that you are going to get with the person and do, you want to know if the result is going to be constructive or non-constructive. It's really very simple. Nothing about counter-racist science, basically, is complicated because you just keep two things in mind. What is constructive and what is non-constructive? Because you're always supposed to be doing or saying something that's in the constructive lane, never in the non-constructive lane. And how do you know the difference? By asking questions.
Asking questions.
You know, if you're doing something, I don't care if you're sawing wood, you just say, hey, why are we sawing this wood? Say, well, we're making this and we're making that. Well, after we get through making what we're making, are you going to use it for? What are you going to use it for? And what is going to be the result? Is the result going to be constructive or non-constructive? If you're planting crops, if you're planting marijuana, you want to know, is this marijuana that we're planting, is it going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect on the way people think, speak, and act? Yes or no? If you're manufacturing whiskey, you ask the same question. If you're manufacturing a car, you ask the same question. And in the case of a car, for example, you might say, well, it's going to have a constructive effect, but on the other hand, it's going to have a non-constructive effect if it's not used correctly. I mean, a car, because you can use a car incorrectly. You can use it while you're looking at your apps or whatever little device you have in your hand, or without a seat belt and all like that. That has been proven to be a non-constructive use of a vehicle. You give full time and attention to your driving in a vehicle.
Yes.
That's the constructive use of a vehicle. So you can point out constructive, non-constructive. That's all we have to do, really, to beat the system of white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
Keep in the constructive lane.
Okay.
On jobs and everything else, always hold your hand up and say, sir, ma'am, this project that we're going to start on, is it going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect? And if so, how? If not, how?
Okay. TalkTimidRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here are several that I'd like to share with you, several shows. Let's do this one. Urban Flow, Senior Agenda, and Wiggins World. Now, all you have to do is go to the TalkTimidRadio.com homepage and click on Programs for Scheduled Times. And it'll give you a little brief description about the show that you're about to listen to. All that is exclusive to TalkTimidRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. And while you are there, make sure that you hit that donate button. Please hit that donate button for the continuation of this second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. This is the only show on Talk Timid Radio that is 2 hours. And you know why that is? Because of you. You hitting that donate button. And we had enough to supply us for the full year. Now we're doing that again. So hit that donate button. Thank you, Mr. Cornelius Baker, Samuel Robinson, BW Gifts. Thank you. Patrick Smith. Didn't give the last name, but his name is Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. Oh, Anthony McKean. Thank you. Matter of fact, he's from Great Britain. Janelle Lewis. We are so happy that you did that. And Robert Slade. Thank you for your donations. Go to the TalkTimidRadio.com homepage, hit donate, and you are all in. This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com, and they will vet it for me, and I'll read it. Okay, this comes from Brother Dominic. He says, Mr. Fuller, I dug up a fascinating article on the racist history of policing, and I found it remarkable how many things in it related to a lot of the things that you have to say. By any chance, could you expound a little more on what the racists deem as policing?
Oh, the racists deem as policing anything that strengthens racism, because the racists don't do anything that's not going to give strength to racism. So they'll put any kind of label on it. So you can't get faked out by labels, because, you know, they use every type of nice label that you can possibly think of on all kinds of poison, you know, and then they get you to attack the labels. See, that's why we have to sometimes change words. I always say that, hey, I don't have anything against police officers, you know, and nobody should. Why? A police officer practices justice. But since nobody practices justice, because that's impossible in a system of white supremacy, then you just call people by the titles that they want to be called, but it's with the understanding that the titles don't mean anything. It's the action is what means something. But when you use titles like, I don't say the police do anything to harm anybody. See, we have to change the language. I never say that. Policemen don't harm people. Well, if people are being harmed by people who are called police, then what do you call those people who are doing the harm? Don't you call them police doing the harm? The answer is no. Well, what do you call them? You call them racist suspects. Now we're getting somewhere. No, I don't think that's a police officer. I think that's he's pretending to be, or she is pretending to be. No, no. This is some pretense here. So pretending means there's something else going on here. So what do you call a person? Suspected racist.
Yes.
I suspect the person is a racist. I suspect that the person is not a police officer, because police officers don't do unjust harm to people. Police officers harm people who should be harmed for doing things that they shouldn't do. That's what police officers do. And police officers are helpful to protect and serve, many of them say. Protect people who are being harmed and serve the people who are being harmed. That's what police officers do. But race soldiers, suspected race soldiers, deliberately do harm to people. And so that's in the textbook.
Yes.
And that's also in the word guide.
Right.
Race soldier. That's different. So, but you don't call a person a race soldier because you're going to have to prove it. And you're not able to do that in a system of white supremacy.
Okay.
So you say what? Suspected race soldier.
Okay.
And your honor.
All right.
And they will say to you, what do you mean suspected race soldier? Suspected by whom? By me. You know.
Yeah, and go
oh, yeah, I'm the one doing suspected.
Okay. This is a Gmail from Dr. Miller. He says, as always, I hope this communication finds you, Mr. Fuller, in the best conditions in every regard in all 9 areas of activity in your individual life. Like so many that are plugged in and are plugging into your work, Mr. Fuller, I've learned so much. To be specific, I've learned so much about how to work better on the job because of your advice. I want to paint a quick picture of a very real scenario that occurred on my job last summer. I work in the IT field as an engineer. This has been dominated by white man's world forever. Very few black people of African descent work with me. Last summer, my boss got a new boss who happened to be black. Initially, knowing how toxic and confused a lot of blacks can be, I built up walls of defense around this new person. Over the time, he observed me and my work ethic and made me my team's lead engineer. Moves have been in place to remove my current boss. I was the first candidate to take the position, but really didn't want it. Nevertheless, I've been promoted with raises and bonuses since he arrived, but can't shake the feeling that the white supremacy machine isn't going to stand but only so much of this black man's grandstanding. I've seen this black man walk right up and with integrity and honor every single day since he was hired. He's the most just-minded person I've ever worked with under, and I can't stop thinking they don't like this man one bit. Can you respond to that, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, that word like. Don't ever expect to be liked by anybody in the system of white supremacy, including be liked by other black people. Because under the system of white supremacy, nobody is supposed to like anybody of color. It's just not supposed to happen, period. If it happens, consider that a bonus. Because black people are not supposed to like each other. And the white supremacists and white people who are not white supremacists are not supposed to like black people, period. Nobody is supposed to like people of color in a system of white supremacy. When you say like, you mean you have affection toward, really care about at that real depth level. It's not supposed to happen. Everybody is supposed to consider a non-white person as being something that you throw away, something that really probably should never have existed, something that got off on the wrong planet. That is what the system of white supremacy demands. So never expect anybody to like you, all right? But you do what? You practice justice as best you can with everybody, meaning what? Try to guarantee, just keep this in mind, that way you stay focused. Try to guarantee in every situation that you're in that you do not mistreat anyone. That's number one. Number two, try to guarantee that you try to give help to every person who needs constructive help. And that's all you got to remember.
Okay.
If you forget everything else, because that's the definition of justice. You're trying to achieve a world that's just.
Okay.
Center on that. Not who likes who dislikes who rolls their eyes when you say something or something like that, who starts name-calling and talking in a loud voice and making all kinds of derogatory remarks and all like that. Just keep in mind, listen to all of that, and when it's all through, things get quiet, then say, well, one thing I'm going to try to do is try to guarantee that no one is mistreated, and I'm going to do my very best to try to guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And I thank you.
And speaking of that, could you quickly speak on your book?
Yes. Go to producejustice.com, and I have some of these suggestions, quite a few of them, in the textbook for victims of racism that you can order by going to producejustice.com. Some of the things that I'm saying, most of the things that I'm saying, and I say it repetitiously in one form or another, all through the book.
All righty. There you have it. So you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. All right, producejustice.com. Okay, before we are going into break, maybe we'll take it a little bit early. Let's do this. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on 94.1. That is WGRN. The podcasts are available for download, and all you have to do is download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I want you to stay right there because we're going to answer more of your phone calls. In fact, we have someone waiting on the line now, and more of your Gmails to hear. Download TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are having open forum today. You can call in 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com, and I will maybe get to read your letters now. Don't forget, while you're on that homepage right now, go ahead, hit that donate button so we can continue the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Dr. Bragg, before I read your letter, we're going to go to the phone lines, and you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Thank you for taking my call. Good morning to you and Brother Fuller, man. It's always good to hear you. I listen to you all the time, even though sometimes I'm not able to call you. I don't have a question, my good brother. I want to make a comment to all decent human beings.
Okay.
Humanity. I would like to make a suggestion to non-Caucasians. If you can or have the wherewithal to escape from this hell, get out. These psychopaths are mentally ill, and they mean the masses of so-called black people in this country at this time no good. And they have made even many of us mentally ill living in this asylum. By being a refugee, ain't nothing new. Blacks escaped from the south to the north, Canada. These white folks here, they escaped from over in Europe. And you just had a bunch of refugees came here for another country. People have been running for their life ever since there's been evil in the world. And there have always been evil. But right now, I suggest we concentrate on saving as many lives as possible, particularly the young women and children, if we can, or if you are in a position to do it. It don't mean you're going to go to some utopia somewhere. What it means is you're going to get out of this hell what these psychopaths are about to do to millions of black people here. Now, somebody asks me sometime, well, where you go? I don't know where to tell you to go. I ain't been nowhere to Vietnam. But I tell you this, people on the top of that World Trade Center, they jumped from the 90th floor. And I remember Willie down south on the plantation. They was in their shack one night, and Willie, with the most slaves, he was packing up this pillowcase, putting this little bread in there. And the slaves looked at each other. Then they looked at Willie, and one of them said, what you doing, Willie? Willie said, I was leaving. They said, well, where you going, Willie? Willie said, I don't know. But there's a one thing I do know. Anywhere is better than here. Think about it, people. If you can save your life, save some young person's life, get them out of here, because these psychopaths, they are going to exterminate us.
All right.
I wish I could tell you something different, but I can't. And I hope I'm wrong.
Thank you.
I can't save all my grandchildren.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. All righty. VGQ on that one. Thank you very much. Going to the Gmails. This comes from Dr. Bragg. He was mentioning about health. He says, Mr. Fuller, a few shows ago you spoke about health, but I was referring to the medical profession. Let's see, the medical industry and the power they yield over our lives. They yield in many ways the same level of power over us as law enforcement police officers when under their care or supervision. Medicine or medical, however you want to classify it as a potential area of activity exists. But again, laughing about it a bit, I just think, Mr. Fuller, that you prefer to keep your list to 9 instead of adding the medical profession as 10, because I think most of us can agree that you could add as many as 3 to 5 categories. But this is your way, Mr. Fuller, and I respect that. This is Dr. Bragg. Mr. Fuller, he was speaking about adding medicine to the 9 areas of activity.
Well, I've covered that before, but I'll do it again, and that is a person can do that if they want to, but I don't see any need to do so because
if you do all of the things like under economics, I put that under economics. What is economics? The use of time and energy. These are universal laws. These are universal entities. Time and energy. So, if time and energy is used correctly, that is health in every area of activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And under economics, eating and sleeping correctly. That's time and that's energy. If it's done correctly, that goes a long ways toward this thing called health. Let's move from economics, the use of time and energy, to education, the process of learning. That's health. You learn everything you can about what? About E. coli, about malaria, about AIDS, about anthrax, about asbestos, Agent Orange, crack cocaine, Ebola, heroin, listeria, so-called Asiatic flu, so-called West Nile disease, Indian blankets that are disease back in history, so-called yellow fever, hepatitis C, and one of the ones that came up lately is what? Zika, Z-I-K-A. Where does this come from? See, this all has to do with health, but it also has to do with the usual suspects, the white supremacists. I mean...
That's right.
Yes. And all of these, anytime anything comes up that you never heard of, Ebola, like in Ebony.
Yes.
Ebola.
Yes.
That's the name of some type of virus, some type of disease.
It is a virus, a man-made
some
virus.
type of destructive thing.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Yes.
See, the white supremacists have complete control.
Absolutely.
In the prison called Earth. So, therefore, every now and then you can expect them to say, hey, Eureka, we have just discovered a new disease. Or a new form of an old disease. I mean, we got a new strain of malaria here. Well, we never seen any strain. It's malaria, but it's not the old type that we thought we had beat. And now it's spreading all over wherever these dark people are.
Yes.
I mean, oddly enough, Brazil, oddly enough, Uganda, oddly enough, the Sudan, oddly enough. Wherever you find these dark people, you find these mysterious diseases.
Yeah, isn't that something?
And so, therefore, we got to go and inoculate those people and show them that our hearts are in the right places, and we're going to find out and get to the bottom of it and all like that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, well, now, hey, if we know anything about the history of the usual suspects, well.
Yes.
You know,
and Mr. Fuller, you are...
How about Indian blankets?
Yes. And Mr. Fuller, you are absolutely correct, because my staff and I, we've done research on just about everything that you had just mentioned and found out that they were all man-made viruses with patent numbers on it. How about that? Anyway, let's go to the phone lines. What line one? Line number one? Yeah, with patents. How about that? Line number one, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. My question is with Trump, with President Trump. Now, Steve Harvey went to visit Mr. Trump, and on Facebook and everything else, he's been called a coon and being hated for going to speak with the president. Now, Dr. Harvey, which is the president at Hampton University here in the city I live, a group of those presidents went to visit with Mr. Trump, and was it anything negative said about them? And my question is do educated blacks get a pass to try to mingle and to get along with whites? And yet, if a person that's not doesn't have the status and the community, if they try to go or see him or do something that they call coons and things like that, is this a conquer and divide technique
Okay. Okay, divide and conquer technique. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuller?
The white supremacists always want non-white people to fight among themselves. Look at 1994, Rwanda. 800,000 people slaughtered each other, all of them black, slaughtering each other. Based on what? Based on a rumor and based on a long-term basis, according to the information I've received, something set up by the white supremacists, setting one tribe against another.
Yes.
Giving one tribe more benefits than they gave to the other tribe. And when you give a person more benefits than you give to another person in the same region, in the same family, you might say, you set up a thing called envy. And then at a certain point, you can push a button and say, you know what? You shouldn't put up with this. You should fight that other person that I gave a lot to, and I didn't give you anything. So you should fight that person. See, but we should get wise to that and start saying, you can't help me by giving something to somebody else or taking something away from somebody else, sir.
Yes, sir.
You help me by helping me, period. And don't get me to look at anybody else other than you. Why? Because you are the warden of the entire prison. And just because you give something to the people down in cell block C, and I am in cell block B, and then you tell me to get into a fight with them about what they got from you, that's not logical, sir.
No.
My beef, if I got one, is always with one entity, and that is you, the suspected racist. My beef is with you. Any complaint that I ever have to make, ever, without exception, is always with you. Why? Because you are in charge of me, wherever I am, and every other non-white person on the planet. So don't go start pointing the finger at somebody else and say, hey, I gave him your check, so you go down there and fight him about the check that I gave him. No, you gave it to him. You gave him my check and then still call it my check? That's on you. That's not a beef between me and the other person. That's like on payday. You go to get your check and they say, oh, sorry, I can't pay you. I gave your check to your brother.
Yeah, Willie.
No, well, why did you give my check to my brother? Because that's your brother. So you can get it from him. No, it doesn't work like that, sir. I expect everything from you directly, individually.
That's right.
Individually. You can't even help me by helping other black people. You got to help me, too. That's the deal.
That's the deal. All righty. That's pretty good. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic is the open forum today. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. And while you're doing that, hit that donate button on the homepage there. Any amount, and we will be appreciative for the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am required to ask you one more time, Mr. Fuller, about your book, and can you get the book in Canada?
You can get the book by going directly to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And then what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a book that's directed toward people who perceive themselves as being victims of a system called white supremacy, and some suggestions about what you can think about it and what you can speak about it, the words that you use when you speak about it or not speak about it, and what you do as an individual person. It's addressed to the individual person, which is why I call it the compensatory code, meaning we don't have something for the individual. I tried to write something that's addressed not to groups of people, tribes of people or, certain what they call abstract entities. No. People hurt individually, like I just finished saying. You can't pay me by paying off other black people. I'm not, they'll say, well, you don't want us to pay the other black people? No, I want you to pay everybody that's got something coming that should be theirs. Justice. I want that for everybody. Otherwise, you don't have it. But that includes me. You can't leave me out. So you can't pay me by paying somebody else and say, well, I paid them, and that should satisfy you. And they all look like you. No, you have to pay everybody. You can't leave anybody out. That's what you call justice.
All right.
Justice means you never leave anybody out, period.
Right. Okay. All righty. So go to producejustice.com, and you can get the book in Canada now. Got a email from Dr. Lawson. He says, in most corporate government jobs, there are performance evaluations of the employees by management. What is the compensatory response when an employee is asked to write up their own accomplishments for management to consider in their performance evaluation?
You evaluate whether or not everybody's going to be treated the same in this accomplishment process, and whether the evaluations based on what is written is correct. Some people may not be able to write very well, but they're accomplishing a lot. So that raises some questions. Okay. Like I say over and over again, in compensatory counter-racist science,
all right,
in the production of justice, you do what? You solve problems by raising questions and providing answers to those questions.
All righty.
What if everybody can't write the same way about their accomplishments? See what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you do about that? A person is doing the work, but they don't know how to write about it. They don't know what to say or how to say it. What do you do about that, sir? Have you made accommodations for that? Consideration for that?
All righty. Let's do this. We got about 9 minutes, so we have two callers. Let's take this call right here. Caller, what line are we on? Line number one? Okay, line number one. Caller, quickly, what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, I was wondering, so I'm classified as white in a system of white supremacy, and I was wondering what a good codified way is to share information with victims of racism about, the system of white supremacy, what it is and how it works.
Okay, you're classified as white in the system of white supremacy?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Oh, two main things. Two main things. This is very unusual, but the code is supposed to cover everything for everybody. When you start talking about producing justice, you can't leave anybody out, and definitely not white people. All right? So, just starting off, in order to have what we call a quality relationship, it's going to be a long list, and the list is in the textbook for racism. But it's two things right off. As a white person, never, ever lie to a person who is classified as non-white. Black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, any person of color. Never say a lie. I mean, if you're in a situation where it's dangerous to say anything and all like that, just don't say anything. But if you say something, don't give false information to a victim of racism.
Okay.
Because if you give false information to a victim of racism, that seals you in, according to the code, forever.
Okay.
Forever, you will be on the racist suspect list.
Okay, and
sure.
And what's number two?
And the other one is never withhold constructive information. The black people, the non-white people of this planet, need every type of constructive information that you can give them. Information is power.
Okay.
So anything that you know, where they can get a good job and all like that. I mean, white people, like yourself, even when you're not aware of it, or may not be aware of it, even if you are aware of it, I mean, are you not aware of it and you can
have access to people who are aware of benefits.
Okay.
Anytime you can think of something that might benefit a person that you know who is non-white,
okay,
don't withhold that beneficial information.
All right.
Sir.
Now, we're
two. Those are two things you can do that'll go a long way.
Okay, let's go to the other call. What line are we? Line number 2, quickly.
Line 2. Okay. Good morning. My name is Dennis, and the question is, Mr. Fuller, should non-white people, whenever they come in contact with white people, should they let them know that they are being mistreated? Just directly. We know that you're mistreating us, and you need to stop it. Should we do that?
No, you don't approach it that way. You simply say that you believe in justice, and that then you define what justice is, guaranteeing that nobody is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. So you don't want to start off in a combative mode or sending a signal that you're ready to ball up your fists and fight. No, you want to approach, hey, we got to resolve this thing. I mean, even if, sooner or later we got to sit down and talk. So we might as well talk with civility, talk with the correct intentions. And your intentions always is to do the most constructive thing. And then you ask a question.
Okay.
Sir, are you willing to participate in guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and in guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help? And then just sit back and wait for the answer.
All righty.
And then see if they measure up to the answer.
Okay. And let's get this last one in. Go ahead, Galen. Line number 3? Okay. Go ahead. You're now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead. What is your question?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, quickly.
Okay. How you doing, Brother Fuller? I just have one quick question. Now, I'm in the military, and I just want to know what is your advice on how to handle the military in particular, as far as one of the few black people within a particular unit, and how to handle yourself accordingly.
Same formula I just laid out. Everything is constructive and non-constructive. Everything is about treatment or mistreatment. Treatment means doing things correctly toward a person, every person, doing the most beneficial thing, whether you're speaking to the person or doing something with the person or in conjunction with the person, any association with people, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. You're in the military. Remember a movie called A Few Good Men, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Private Son did you see that movie?
No, I did not.
Oh, you haven't. It's about the Marines, but most military establishments work the same way. There was a private named Santiago. There was a colonel called Colonel Jessup in the movie, played by Jack Nicholson, who didn't want to give the most constructive help to Private Santiago. In fact, Private Santiago was finally killed in what they call a code red. And other guys were giving him what you might call company punishment, and it got out of hand, and he died. All right? So the whole movie is about the trial of the colonel who was in charge, because it's always the fault of the person in charge. And that's how the movie panned out. Why? But it started with the colonel not having the correct intentions toward Private Santiago. I mean, he wanted to punish the fellow for a weakness rather than try to build up his strength. See what I mean? And so the people who found that out punished that colonel that was the chain of command to blame for Private Santiago's death. Getting back to the crux of what we're talking about. Constructive, non-constructive. Always do the most constructive thing by doing what? Seeing to it in every situation that no person is mistreated. That's the question here. I mean, people will start talking about, well, we got a mission to accomplish and all that. Wait a minute. The mission of everything that you are supposed to be doing in any correct military is to do the most constructive thing, like anywhere else on the planet, any minute of the day. You help the person that needs the most constructive help, and you guarantee that no person is mistreated. That's all.
is called justice. Now, in every military unit throughout the world, I mean, that they say that should be supported, has that word justice in it. Just like every job that anybody is on, every schoolroom, justice should be the mission, because you're dealing with people. Justice is about balance between people, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Very simple.
All righty. All right, my brother. Thank you for your call from the military.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Guaranteeing that those that need the most the constructive help get it, and that everybody is guaranteed to be to be treated equally. Is that correct?
No, guaranteeing that no one is mistreated.
Yes.
And guaranteeing that everybody gets the most constructive help. All right? Don't do anything that's non-constructive. However, in the military now, you have to think about who you're fighting and whether or not that's going to be constructive. Because somebody said, including the Secretary of Defense, I understand, unless I've been misinformed, said that that whole Vietnam thing was extremely non-constructive.
Yeah.
You don't want to make that mistake at the top level either.
Yeah, just
or at the bottom level.
Yeah, just like those that got points with Agent Orange in the Vietnam War. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening.